Hello, Wanderers. Thank you for joining me for another video here at the Witch's Chambers. So, today I will be discussing Ostara, also known as the spring equinox. We'll be going over what is Ostara and the brief history, bunnies and eggs, and the mystery on its connection, how Ostara became Easter, and lastly, how to celebrate the season. So, first off, what is Ostara? So, is it Easter, Ustra, or Ostara? Well, the name Easter takes its roots in the Anglo-Saxon word Ostra, which linguistically is connected to the German word Ostara. Now, Ostra is a Germanic goddess of the dawn. She symbolizes fertility, abundance, and rebirth. She is largely associated with the coming of spring, as well as the reawakening of new life in the natural world. But that's all we really know about the goddess. A lot of the lore and mythology surrounding Ostara and her origins has been lost in time. Many of the Anglo-Saxon heathery, or Ash for short, has been overrode with Christian etymology. However, we do have one credible source that talks about the goddess, and that is the Venerable Bede, the Reckoning of Time. So, Bede was a Christian monk that was later canonized as a saint. He was a writer and kept record of many ancient pagan or heathen practices. In his text, he illustrates the origins of the names of the months, and what we now call April was originally called Ostermannath. He describes that during this month there would be a large celebration of feasts dedicated to the goddess Ostra. However, he was still a Christian monk and did not want to truly immortalize the pagan practices, so outside of what he wrote in his text, the trail runs cold and we have nothing else to give us really any insight on how our ancestors celebrated this holiday or who Ostra really is. It wasn't until Jacob Grimm, yes, of the famed Brothers Grimm, picked up her tale and began digging in to find answers, so connecting his own dots on the true origins of the goddess. He created a book called The Teutonic Mythology, where he outlines his findings as he researches the origins of many ancient deities. Now, Ostra linguistically turns into Ostara in the German language, and in his quest to discover the truth, Jacob makes a historical leap by connecting the goddess Ostra to the Norse god Ostri, as the feminine version of his name is Ostra. So it sounds very similar. So Ostra, Ostara, and Ostra, it makes sense why he would connect their names and stories. However, it is also to be noted that Jacob made this leap as to craft a German-centric mythology. So although the connection makes sense, there is a great deal of bias to connecting the dots between these deities. So after all that spotty history, what does celebrating Ostara even look like today? In the present, Ostara is commonly celebrated by neo-paganism, which is a whole other topic on its own, but simply put, it's the modern day practice and interpretation of our ancestral practices pre-Christianity. So although we have lost a lot in history when it comes to the true depth, practices, and origins of the celebration, we can still celebrate it based on what we do know. So the season of Ostara is the time to celebrate the goddess in her maiden form. So using symbolisms of fertility, abundance, renewal, joy, and the return of the light and warmth. So where did the bunnies and eggs even come from? Because we made no mention of that before. So there are different stories and references explaining the origins of the hare and why it lays colorful eggs and its connection to Ostara, but for today I'll keep it short and sweet by briefly reviewing two stories to give you a starting idea. So the first story I'm personally calling Bird to Hare. I didn't really find titles to them. If you look up everything yourself and you find the titles, please leave them in the comments below. So, Ostara loved children, and they would often follow her around wherever she went, and she would always sing and perform magic for them. One day, to delight the children, Ostara turned a bird into a rabbit. However, it was very displeased by this transformation and felt afraid and vulnerable to predators. The children, seeing the rabbit's distress, begged the goddess to return the rabbit to its former self. However, because this unnatural transformation happened, Ostara was punished by having her magic significantly reduced and would no longer be able to return the rabbit back into its bird form. The only time Ostara's powers are restored to their full potential is during the spring celebration. So during this time, she is able to return the rabbit into its original form of a bird bird, however, only for a short while. After transforming, the bird soars off to lay its eggs. After the spell reverses, the rabbit goes throughout the world handing out its eggs to children in thanks and celebration of the goddess. So that's the first story. Now, the second one that I have is called Eggs of Appreciation. I'm also making up a name. If any of you know this story, or again, did your own research and found out what the actual title is, definitely leave it in the comments below. So in this tale, it's described that the celebration of spring is in regards to the goddess Ostara and a god who I couldn't find the name of, as they make it back from the underworld of which they traveled through during the winter months. And upon their return to earth, life and rebirth are brought with them. So during this tale, it is said that people do not wear any clothes during the winter months for fear of bad luck. So instead, they weave the finest clothes during the winter in preparation for the spring Sabbat. During the spring Sabbat, everyone wore the finest clothes, had large feasts, and danced until their feet hurt. Now, a little rabbit also wanted to celebrate the goddess's return, and so the rabbit laid sacred eggs and presented them to Ostara. Delighted in the gift, she wished to share her happiness with all of mankind and had the rabbit hand out the sacred eggs all over the world to be celebrated. So that is the two stories that I found to be most common. I hope you enjoyed them. Now, I know I just covered two popular stories. However, there are many more interpretations, and that's all they really are, to be honest. They're just stories. There is no historical evidence actually connecting the painting of eggs and bunnies to Ostra. If there is, it's been lost in time, much like other practices. So the origins of painting eggs is known to come from two sources, which is Ukrainian folk tradition and Mediterranean Christianity. So in Mediterranean Christianity, they would paint eggs red to symbolize the blood of Christ. And in Ukrainian folk history, around Easter time, they would intricately paint eggs in these mesmerizing patterns and colors. This tradition actually predates Christianity. However, there is no exact date as to when it began either. So, how did the celebration of Ostara even become Easter? Was it Christianized? To be honest, this is also a bit of a mystery. In my previous video, I briefly discussed how when Christianity was making its way through the world and taking over pagan practices, a lot of the Christians would implement a tactic of taking pagan holidays and overriding them with Christian history to convert the pagans. In this case, it may have happened. There is not a clear distinction. There are documented Christian magical manuals, and these likely encompass heathen rituals. However, the names of the ancient pagan gods and goddesses have been swapped out for the Christian names, such as Christ or really any angelic type of names, just to make it a little bit more holy, you would say. We can assume as much that it may have been a conversion. However, from researching, it looks as though this was a natural progression through time to combine the practices rather than an outright takeover. This video is sponsored by me. The Witch's Chamber's online shop is up and running on both Facebook and Etsy. I crafted energy items for the Ostara season. Pop in and grab an item before they're sold out. Alright, back to it. So I know we kind of went down the Clip It Notes version of a rabbit hole, no pun intended, of what Ostara is and where it originated from. But celebrating the holiday is not as complicated as you may think. I've listed a few easy, cost-efficient ways that you can celebrate the Sabbat. Alright, first off, be in nature. I know, sounds way too simple. However, the largest factor when practicing magic is connecting with nature, appreciating the earth, and working with its natural cycles. As the earth awakens from its sleep, allow yourself to just embrace its change all around you. Typically, you can accomplish this by going for a walk through a trail or even a park, but say that you're in an area and you don't even have that much nature around you. Honestly, just standing outside for maybe 5 minutes or however long that you'd like, looking up at the sky and breathing in the fresh air is another fantastic way of grounding yourself and connecting with the earth. Next I have plants. So this can definitely go along with being in nature by bringing the nature to you. Plant some herbs and flowers in small pots in your home or outside. Plants are energy just like us, and to bring the energy you want within your life is an important practice to stay aligned with your goals and ambitions. Lastly, craft an altar. Again, everything is all about energy. Crafting an altar in dedication to this season is also a great way to center and sow your seeds of intent for the year by centering your energy through an altar. There are many ways you can craft an altar. It can be grandiose, like how you imagine in fairy tales, or it can be simple and discreet. I did craft an Ostara Jar Altar for you to see and try at home, so I'll link in the description for you guys to check out and get a sample of different types of altars, I guess, that you can experiment with. Well, I hope you enjoyed the content today. Please hit the like and subscribe button to stay up to date on the latest videos I post. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever celebrated any of the Sabbats. Until next time, Wanderers, blessed be.